first step is define your magic patient number. That means how many patients at what price point you choose to serve to help you get to your ideal location in life. The problem with our profession is that there's this belief that you need to serve X amount of people at X price point, and you take that number and you run with it, and if you do that, you're going to be successful. The reality is, and our first step is to know where your life is at now and what it costs for childcare. What does it cost to go on vacation? You want to go on vacation in Cabo or Florida or Canada. What do all those steps look like to live your most authentic life? Is there a new car on the way? Everybody's different. Do you live in California? Do you live in Kentucky, Colorado, Ontario, Vancouver? The taxes are different. Price points are different. Everything is going to be different, and everyone's got a unique path, a unique story to tell to get to their most authentic life. The first step is to know what that magic patient number is to you. That way you can attract the appropriate amount of clients and do a much better job retaining clients because you know why you're doing it. And it's not just a magic number picked out of the air. It's a number that you define. What is your magic number? That's step number one. So you're burned out. You're overworked. Where does the time go? Here's the problem. You've got this many adjusting hours in a day. And this is your bucket of time. If you've got that many adjusting hours and you say, I just want to fill it with 100 patients, what's going to happen is you may actually have the capacity to serve 200 patients, but because you started with the time first and say, I've got this much time, what happens is because you haven't been really, really specific and really clear with how much time you want to spend per client based on your magic number, you just end up filling up this space with just a whole bunch of stuff. If you're supposed to spend 2 minutes with a client or 5 minutes with a client, that number will automatically double if you haven't consciously done the work. Now, by taking your magic number and figure out how much time you want per adjustment, now we can go back and we can say, I'm only going to adjust for this many hours in a week. Well, with that many office hours, what are you going to do with all your free time? Well, yeah, you can add a little bit of administrative stuff and maybe even some marketing stuff, but that's not what this is about. Now you can add in a hobby like biking. You can spend some family time in there and still even have some extra time to sleep and become human. And the point is that you have consciously taken the time to meld what the numbers look like and what the time looks like so that you can have all areas authentically in your life. This is step number 2. So just to recap, step 1 was about figuring what your magic patient number is, how many patients you would choose to serve during an ideal week. Step 2, figuring out the time quotient, how much time ideally do you want to spend per client. Once you figure that out, the third step is, and I'll use the analogy of a stock market. If you've got a stock and it keeps bumping into a certain number, like let's say $100, and it just can't, every time it gets like 99, it pushes back down to 80. Then it'll come back up, it gets 99 again, it pushes back down to 75. But once that stock finally breaks through and goes to $100, then all of a sudden the sky's the limit. There's just something energetic about that number for that stock that was stagnating its growth. We're not stocks, we're not things. We are living, breathing, evolving beings. But the concept of the ceiling now becoming the floor, I think is really applicable in an authentic life. The challenge, and this is where things get a little bit kind of hairy-fairy, is what is this? What's the ceiling for you in your life that's causing you to cap out at a certain number of patients in a week or a certain amount of collections? For Dr. Charles, he was at a place where he was consistently serving 70 patients a week, and he was just bouncing into 70. We found out that there was one thing that was blocking him from getting to 120 patients, and all it took was one short month coaching with him to just blast through, and now he's never looked back. That's always been his floor. He never looks back to 70 as the top, but that's always the bottom. But for all of us to springboard and to get through that ceiling, we need to identify what that ceiling is and then talk about some strategies that don't necessarily involve more marketing, that don't involve changing your report or changing who you are, and certainly not putting in any new scripts in your life. Figuring out how we can catapult through that, make that ceiling your new floor, and then just live a life of full authenticity and full expression. This is step 3, and frankly, this is why we need to hop on the phone. We need to talk about what's going on in your life and what your current ceiling looks like, and talk about some strategies that are authentic to you to break through that, to make that the new floor in your life.